How's it going, everybody? My name is Ryan. You're watching Crosswatcher. Usually I do tarot on this channel, but it's been about a month, maybe even 2 months since I last posted a video. And today we're going to be talking about the Moldavite journey as pertains to spiritual awakening. So it's been about a month or two since I last posted a video. And at the time, I was running a series where I was doing astrological calculations and getting energy reads on the portals for each month. And I was going through sign by sign uh, doing the tarot reads. But I had to cut that abruptly. At the exact same time, I believe we were going into full moon in Leo. I could be wrong. Could have been right after full moon in Leo. But to no coincidence, I wasn't the only one who stopped posting videos. In fact, I'm willing to bet that maybe one or two of your favorite tarot readers stopped posting videos, aside from this channel. And it wasn't just tarot readers either. There's a lot of YouTubers that are just giving up. And like I said, that's no coincidence. It's the time. It's the astrological features that we've been experiencing. It's this collective energy that has been building in a rather negative, kind of like lack of identity way of manifesting itself. And there's really nothing we could do about it. You just have to ride it out. And what Spirit is really calling you to acknowledge is your patience for your path, where it to have confidence on where it's led you to this point and beyond, and to only trust yourself. Okay, outside influences are going to have an effect on the self mastery, that path that supersedes the obstacles that try to bind us to this matrix. There's always a path that we're meant to follow, and there are always obstacles that are meant to divert us off our path, and it's only the true self that knows where we're going. So on my Moldavite journey, it's been pretty crazy. The last video I posted, I'm gonna smoke a rolled cigarette while I talk to you about this. I've discovered some things. So the last video I posted was Moldavite before the miracles, and literally it was like 2 days, maybe up to 4 days after that. That's when the miracles started happening. I was living out of my truck. For anybody who's following along, living out of my truck, really trying to dial in the best methods for manifestation, having eliminated all obstacles. No job, no home, nothing to cling to, where the element of stress could freely rise and almost essentially take over, because it's very important on the manifestation journey for there to be this element of stress. If you don't have the capability of stressing, of experiencing the stress, of acknowledging it, consciously acknowledging the stress, the levels, then you're living comfortably, and manifestations, they don't come to you the way that you'd want them to, or the way that it's destined to, by being in a comfortable state. So I was living out of my car, living out of my truck, and like I said, trying to dial in exactly what the best method for manifestation was. And I believe in that last video I gave a quick run through on what I do. I have the Moldavite around my neck right now. When I would go into meditation, I would place it under my beanie on my third eye. I would place a ball of selenite on top of my crown chakra, and then I would go through with this extensive full alignment meditation with each of my crystals and the proper smudging with sage and lavender to emphasize the uh, I guess you can just say the spiritual nature of the smudging, the to amplify everything that is my true higher self. The way that these elements work is just amazing that there isn't more scientific data to back it up. Because there's a difference. There's a difference between grabbing a bundle of sage, burning it, and smudging, and knowing the power of tobacco smudge. There's a difference, and there's a difference in the smudging in the air to correspond with spiritual energies, metaphysical energies, and how the entity of the smudge of the herb itself or the plant itself uh, interacts with the brain chemistry. And when you combine the two, all of a sudden portals start opening up. These aren't portals that you can see, and if you're too distracted, you won't even feel them. You won't notice them. But that's why it's important to start at a base level where the stress can rise, the spirit can reach out and be open to receive. Uh, Sorry, I'm getting a little off track. But anyways, so Moldavite, before the miracles, in my meditations, I was acknowledging the fact that I had no money, I had no job, I had no friends or communications with anybody whatsoever for months. And I believe I was living out of my vehicle for like 3 months. One second. I'm lighting this with a barbecue lighter because my other lighter just ran out yesterday. Smudging with tobacco. Look it up. It's actually a very efficient way, but keeping in mind, a very efficient way of smudging, but keeping in mind that it doesn't eliminate the addictive potential, the chemical factors, and the risks uh, of taking in tobacco and chemicals. Anyways, but this is a natural tobacco. It's not like a pack of cigarettes. Um, so there I am in my truck for months on end, completely drained of money, completely drained of gas, verging on hunger. I hadn't yet discovered the local food pantry, and this was coming up to Christmas time. This was December. This was the end of December, and so given all these elements, these obstacles that I was dealing with, I consciously knew that the stress levels were going to rise, and I needed to let them rise. So every day I would meditate for long periods of time, and I would acknowledge the stress levels, and I would prep my mind by telling myself that I needed to go through this, that it was going to happen. And then on the other side of that stress barrier, that's where the manifestation was. So there I was, literally on Christmas Eve, not having talked to anybody. I was living in my truck, parked in a parking lot that I was lucky enough to be able to stay in without anybody bugging me. It was like a truck stop, and the stress levels started to rise, and my body was starting to feel it. And in the back of my mind, I was telling myself, "Go ahead and just feel it. Feel the stress. Feel it rise. Feel it come." And it brought me to a physical state where I was literally laying there on the bench of on the laying there on the seats of my truck, kind of curled up, started to cry, telling myself, "Oh, I can't do this. This sucks. Life sucks. just going through the motions, and in the back of my mind, I'm telling myself, this is it. This is where the manifestation is going to prove itself, or this is all just going to be one big hoax. Well, the next morning, I woke up kind of like, dreary-eyed, kind of like just in a daze. And the first notion that I had was I needed to get myself out of this situation. And without doing a single thing, I received a communication from someone I hadn't received a communication from in a long time. Now I'm not going to get into too many details because it involves, you know, the privacy of others. So there's no need to concern that. So I'll just try to be a little vague. Basically, what had happened after going through these months of meditative practice, stressing, no communication whatsoever. I got received this communication. Long story short, on Christmas Day, I received my manifestation. I received money. Okay, I received monies. Now, at first, it was like, oh wow, now this is enough to get me going again. But it was actually more than I had expected. It was more than I had asked for, more than I had uh, decided that I wanted to manifest. Keeping in mind, you don't have control over where these opportunities come from. You just need to be open to receive the communication, receive the manifestation. So there I was, receiving this manifestation, and all of a sudden it was like, oh wow, that just the universe just proved to me that manifestation is real, that you can turn your thoughts into physical reality. And then weighing the pros and cons about where these manifestations coming from, trying to keep myself grounded. I burned through that money, I think, in like maybe less than 3 weeks, paying off bills, putting gas in my tank, buying food, paying for my phone bill, and then continuing to see if these meditative practices, these full alignment meditations, would manifest more opportunity, and it did. It manifested twice as much money and opportunity. So, long story short, within 4 weeks, 4 to 5 weeks of dialing in these manifestation practices, I had accumulated over $2,000 just out of the blue, without reaching out, without trying. Just communications all of a sudden popping up on my emails, in my phone. Um, all of a sudden, money was flowing in, and I didn't have a job. I didn't have anything. And but here's the kicker, is that with this manifestation gate, this flood of manifestation, these miracles coming in, I wasn't able to stop them, and they started manifesting themselves in ways I didn't perceive. So I was living out of my car. I was living out of my truck. And if you notice, I'm not living out of my truck anymore. All I can say is that, people that actually cared about me started surfacing and started telling me that they didn't want me living out of my truck anymore. And they wanted to give me an opportunity. They wanted to see that I was going to be taken care of. And without resisting, I just remembered that one principle, that you needed to be open to receiving miracles. And that ended on the day that everybody stopped posting videos. On the last day that I posted my last video, I stopped living in my truck, and I moved back in with family, because I stopped resisting. I stopped measuring everything with my ego mind, and realized that I was very blessed to receive any opportunity that manifested itself, that everything that manifested itself was manifesting itself for me. And these aren't coincidences. These aren't, if I had sat there and done nothing, if I had sat there and felt sorry for myself and didn't have faith, uh, these things these things wouldn't have manifested themselves. If I wasn't open to receiving these miracles, these gifts, they would have flown right by. And there's been a lot. I can't get, like I said, I can't get into too much detail, because the more detail I get into, it's kind of intrudes on other people's lives and privacy. So I can't mention it all. But maybe one day I'll be able to actually share all these details. But I've come to grips with 16:05 on the clock. I've come to grips that there's a lot of negativity that will surface itself. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be a negative person, but there will be negativity, this energy that comes up from the subconscious. And it's going to test you. It's going to try to see if you're going to go left or go right, or if you're going to go down the middle, if you're going to resist or if you're going to be open. And all I can say is that you need to be intuitive and take risks. And if it doesn't stress you out to get you onto that path, then it's probably not the right path for you. If it's manifestations that seem too good to be true and offers you too much comfort, then it's going to slow down your progress. As far as the spiritual awakening, some truths have been revealed. See, when I moved out of my truck, I moved off the street and back into my family's home, I put meditation on the back burner. I wanted to sit and observe the matrix for what it was trying to show me, being locked into the matrix. Just kind of put away the spiritual realm for a minute, put away the tarot cards for a while, and feel where the signs and where the gifts and where the miracles are hidden within the matrix, which we're all locked into. Okay, if you work a 9-to-5 job, you're locked into the matrix. If you find yourself going to church, you're in the matrix. If you aren't willing to give up those comforts in life, and you allow the way society has formed itself to dictate your next move or your best interest, you're locked into the matrix. If you push against the grain for a moment and you open yourself up to the energies and the way that the energies are interpreted around you, the way that words are spoken and sound vibrates through your life in the coming and going, the people, the animals, the situations, the weather. If you allow yourself to be open to these energies, you can start to read them. And you can start to feel exactly how much you are this universe, how this universe is you. You are the observer, and you are creating all this. Now, I've gained a lot of appreciation with the time I've spent in the outdoors, living this minimalist lifestyle, being at a lack physicality, a lack mindset, a lack of direction. I've come to appreciate the things that I didn't appreciate before. People I work with, people who might have once seemed to be unconscious, these unconscious beings that we all have to deal with. It's no longer them. It's now me. It's become me. That unconsciousness that is showing itself, that is seated inside of every living person. that unconsciousness comes from me. And you have to learn to appreciate yourself in order to open up that door to appreciate others and for their qualities and for how they are a part of these miracles, these signs, these energies that lay out your path. And one would be tempted to say the path of least resistance, but I'm learning that manifestation isn't the path of least resistance. It's actually one of the hardest things if you're unaware of how to do it. If you're in a lack mindset of belief, that you are a miracle, you are this miracle of life. I hope that makes sense to you. So I want to go back to work, but what I've come to realize is that to do what is in my best interest no longer involves trying to accomplish something that is greater than myself. It is accepting of everything, good and bad. It's all part of the same thing. There's no right and wrong. You don't need to make a certain amount of money to be happy or to impress others. There is no impressing others. If you think about it, you could probably pinpoint a handful of people, if not a dozen or more people, that don't have what you always thought you wanted, but they are more because they don't have it. If that makes sense. So it's not about whether or not I can go through this spiritual awakening and have a job at the same time. It's about knowing that the miracles lie in waiting. All those moments, let's just say that you're in that position where you have to leave your job or you have to cut your hours because you're going through the spiritual awakening. Maybe you're even on a Moldavite journey. Well, whatever was stressing you out before, maybe thinking that you didn't have enough time to yourself, maybe thinking that people were not sensitive enough, people were not open-minded, conscious enough for you to be able to deal with, and it was stressing you out. Well, down this path, you start doing a complete 180 and you realize that you could really use that stress right about now, because who knows what kind of miracles would come from it. So whether you're pushing numbers, you're stocking shelves, or repairing vehicles, or tending to animals, whatever it is that you feel you're resisting in that work, you're resisting your miracles. Some people really need to feel the discomfort. I really felt that I grew more by having less and living with less. And that's a wake-up call to some people, like myself. And then I'm sure there's others that just need to open themselves up to the miracles that are hidden within their own world. You have a job, you're making money, you're comfortable enough, but you're not happy. That can be fuel for the fire in itself. You just simply need to know what you want and be confident about it, and tell the universe what you want. Clean up any of that extra baggage. Do that shadow work. But take the risk, whatever it is you need to do. there's not much I can not much I can tell you. If you're still searching for the existence of miracles, you don't have to be too detailed. If you're still in your mind being like, well, I hope that exists. I hope that miracles actually exist, because no miracles have affected my life. No miracles have come into my life. Well, it does take action. That's part of the manifestation. You have to act to receive. You have to initiate. You have to tell the universe what you want. And if you dial that in with the astrological anomalies that exist in our time, on our timeline, you can dial in some real miracles. You can really bring them to the forefront, and they can help build your life back up. I haven't had a job, but my manifestations are ramping up. So even without a job, my insurance is being paid for, my registration's being paid for. It's forcing me to take action, because I'm not just going to sit around and let these miracles happen, to let these gifts come in, these opportunities. I'm not just going to sit around and take advantage of them. There's going to be a certain point where the universe tells you to get off your ass and start doing something, that the meditation time is over. There'll be plenty of time for meditation later. But as far as the Moldavite, I've covered some of the truths in my last video. Moldavite, one thing is that you could be put into a position where, like me, where you're relying on your faith to get you through. Because to be honest with you, I've taken this Moldavite off my neck quite a few times now, like maybe 3 or 4 times. I've taken it off for maybe a day at a time, with not feeling too much change. There's not too much change involved. But I've taken it off because I start doubting and questioning whether or not this is actually a real Moldavite or not. Because I hear some stories, and my stories just aren't the same. And then all I really have to go off of is my faith, because the person who sold me this specified the difference between real and fake Moldavite. So I had to trust that this person was selling me real Moldavite. But regardless, see, no matter what, you're going to have to go through that. Unless you spend some real money, do your real research, and get that real piece of Moldavite that it's undeniable. Okay? If you're trying to save a buck, or you're just going on a whim and you find a pendant like I did in a store, take the risk. Seems like real Moldavite. Doesn't shine. It's very matted. It's got all the textures. But it's what's up here. That's what makes it real or not. So basically, the Moldavite is an extension of you. It's an extension of your observer. Okay? It allows you to see things through its own perspective, and its perspective converge on perfection. But because we are imperfect, we might not perceive that. Okay? So it takes some practice. But yeah, I've had to deal with that. Moldavite. Is it real? Is it not real? It's just part of it. God itself, or God himself, or God in general, is not going to reveal all the truths. It's not just going to, pop up in your life and be like, hey, I'm God, This is how I work miracles. Everyone is a miracle. Everyone is special. Everyone is different. So whatever journey you are on, regardless if you have Moldavite, regardless if you meditate, okay, it's a very original, a very authentic journey that only you can experience. And we're all reaching with these energy shifts. We're all reaching for more. We're reaching for that next level, that 5D Earth, that experience. And we're there, we're living it every single day. But the Matrix is going to want to hang on to you, okay? It serves its own purpose. On the spiritual awakening, you know, there are a lot of obstacles, but there are a lot of truths that get revealed. And one truth that revealed itself to me, which you've probably already heard before, and probably the entire world's heard about this before me or learned about it, but there is this gateway between the human mind and the absolute, into the void, of life itself. What does life mean? What does living this life mean to its end? What does that mean? Where are the answers? What questions to ask? I find myself all the time telling myself, I got no questions. I have no questions. I have no idea. What is the question I need to ask? I'm on the journey. It seems like I have more answers than questions. But what I've come to realize is the power of plant medicine. Normally, I wouldn't be an advocate for plant medicine. In the past, I've battled my own mind, my own shadow, with whether or not, I should use cannabis. I've never been into any kind of substances, but I used to use cannabis quite a lot. But the entire time I was living in my truck, I hadn't had any cannabis, so I completely cleaned it out of my system. And then, as part of my own journey to resist less and to be open more, cannabis was presented to me at the right proper time. And when I used it as a catalyst for the spiritual experience. And it had a completely psychedelic effect over my vision, over my hearing, my perception, and my creativity. And it led me to the next step. And that was my first experience, realizing, oh, okay, so if I don't use cannabis all the time, and I just use it every now and then, all of a sudden I have this next level experience. Okay, that's great. And I was just open, allowing information to come into gnosis. And I realized it doesn't stop at cannabis. So I started researching on psilocybin therapies, and there's others. There's DMT, there's mescaline, and all this other stuff. I've never tried any of this stuff, but I realize that what's waiting for me is that proper out of body experience. When I feel what they're telling me is that we're on the verge of a major decriminalization, maybe even a legalization of psychedelics. And these psychedelics, there's a lot of people that believe, a lot of scientists that believe that this is the next step in human evolution as far as consciousness. This is where we come from. And I'm very excited to one day have my own therapeutic experience where I use these either the psilocybin medicine or the DMT medicine to have that experience and have that change, because there is an almost an instant change when these elements, these spirits, we'll call them spirits, these are all spirits, they all have different levels of consciousness that they relate with you. When these spirits are introduced into the human mind, then all of a sudden there's this shift. And now I'm just really excited for this shift. I maybe at one point in my life felt like I wanted, fame, acknowledgement. But in this journey, I realized that I want none of that. And one big sign that led me to that conclusion was the activity that's been happening on YouTube. A lot of people, a lot of spiritualists are giving up YouTube. Some I know that I was subscribed and in communication with some tarot readers. I can't find their channels anymore. They're gone. And it's no coincidence. This is all happening at the same exact time. We're on the verge of a major shift. And what that will be in your life, is yet to be told. But you are in control. You are creating all of this. I am a messenger on the other side of this reality, of this perceived reality. I'm out there somewhere, and so are you. And in the end, we're all trying to meet up in the middle by finding ourselves. And I hope this has given you some positive feedback to whatever you've been experiencing lately. There's no right or wrong path. You are on yours, and nobody else can teach you where that's heading. And I wish you all the luck. And I know you'll get there. We'll all get there. Like I said, we're all meeting up in the middle. Just to find ourselves. And we'll get there. You take care.